If you're on a journey right now, whether you have a 500, 600, well into the 750s, or if you're just trying to get into that excellent credit score, that 800 club, well, guess what? You clicked on the right video, because in this video I am going to be sharing with you a few different methods and really the best time and day that you should be paying your credit every single month, your credit card every single month. You see, when it comes to having that 750, that 800 credit score that everyone wants, right? Whether you're looking to get financing for a car, or if you're looking to purchase a home, or if maybe you're looking to refinance on some properties, whatever your situation is, whatever your story is, there is a method, there is a philosophy, there is a science to achieving that credit score that everyone wants to have, right? It's kind of like the pinnacle. But before we get there, I first want to lay the framework of why and how this is actually going to work in your best benefit and in your best interest once you find out this information. You see, when it comes to having when it comes to having a good credit file, or when it comes to having a good credit score, it's not just about having a credit score. It's about having the proper steps really kind of laid out as you continue to build up your credit, or if you are in the credit cleaning and credit rebuilding phase. You see, when it comes to really understanding your score, something that you have to pay really close attention to is the actual breakdown of what goes into your FICO score. Now, a really good rule of thumb is that with the information that you're about to get here, 65% of what makes up your total score, just by fixing this little tweak that I'm about to give you, you're going to be able to catapult your credit score really instantly, right? And that's going to be, for the 65%, that's going to be your amounts owed, as well as the payment history. Nothing else in your credit report, or as you're building your credit file, nothing else is going to carry more weight than just these two items right here, which is why you want to pay really close attention to the first thing, and that's how much do you actually have in your credit file. Because it's one thing to have a credit score of 600, 650, 700, but if you only have, let's say, one store card to your name, that's going to carry far less weight, and you're going to seem much riskier to the lender if you're looking to buy a house, if you're looking to obtain financing for a car, again, whatever that goal is for you, versus someone that, let's say, has 2 American Express cards and a Discovery card, and let's just go ahead and throw in a Chase card in there, and they have $20,000 trade lines in there, let's say $5,000 a pop, but their credit score is right around 650, 660. Why would a bank look at that person as a more reliable, let's say, a person that they can lend to? And the reason for that is because they have what's called a high credit rate, or not a high credit rate, but they have a high amount of credit, which ultimately increases their ability to rack up the usage on their credit cards, which turns into having credit utilization. Now, the credit utilization, this is the second thing you want to pay attention to, is the credit utilization is the percentage of how much credit you're actually using. So let's use this example right here. Let's say person A has a 650 credit score, person B has a 650 credit score. Let's say person A has $1,000 worth of credit limit, but person B has $10,000 worth of credit limit. Person A uses up, they go to the store, they go to the mall, they swipe, they use up $1,000 worth of their credit cards. They are now at 100% credit utilization. Person B uses $1,000, but remember, they have $10,000 worth of credit utilization. So what ends up happening is when this statement goes to report, person A's credit that use up 100% of their credit utilization, they are going to see, unless they actually pay that down well below 20%, they're going to see their score drop anywhere between 20 to 30 points, versus person B, well, guess what? It's still well under 20%, which is where you want to be anyways, as you're using your credit cards and as you're using them responsibly. Now, the third thing, and this is what you really want to pay very close attention to as you are picking the right date for you to pay off your credit cards. You want to understand what your due date is. You want to know what your open cycle is, or your open statement, and you want to know what the closing date for your cycle is. So I am going to, because I know that some of us are visual learners like myself, I'm going to give an example here, because this is how you're going to be able to determine what's the best date for you to actually pay off your credit cards. So we have the due date, the DD, we have the open date, and then we have the CD, the closing day right here. Okay. So hopefully you can see right there, DD, ODCD. So let's say that let's say that my due date is at the end of every month. So let's say on the 25th of every month. That's when, and this is important to know because these dates all mean something differently, and this is how you can leverage your credit, especially as you start using different revolving lines of credit. Let's say my credit card reports the 25th of every month, not reports, but I have to make that payment the 25th of every month. Let's say that my open cycle, let's say that it opens every month on the 1st. This is when I have a clean slate. Or if it shows that I'm carrying a balance. So let's say if I make a payment in full of $1,000, that means that when I go to get my open cycle, I now have $1,000 worth of credit limit. Something to keep in mind as I show you this next part right here. Now we have the closing date. Let's say that the closing date usually comes, or it always comes after the due date on this one, right? So let's say that it comes in right on the 27th. All right, so we have the due date. Remember, this is the day that you are going to be making your payments. This is the day that you want to figure out what that is for you. It could be different for you. It could be the 15th. It could be the 12th. It could be the 11th. But find out what that is. A little trick here that you can use as well is if you have, let's say, 5 or 6 lines of credit and you don't want them landing all on the same day, most credit card companies won't tell you this, or they don't really encourage you to do this. You don't see really anything published on this. You won't see them make any commercials on this. You can call them up and you can say, hey, can you make my due dates on this day right here? So instead of, let's say, having 5 credit cards due at the end of the month plus your rent, why don't you push that to the middle of the month? That way, let's say if you have a 9-to-5 job and you have 2 paychecks every month, you have 1 paycheck to take care of 2 credit cards, and you have the other paycheck, or you have the second paycheck to take care of the other 3 credit cards. Just something for you to keep in mind as you're practicing this and as you're building your credit file. So your due date's the 25th, your open date it's the 1st, and then your closing date is the 27th. So what's the difference between the closing date and the due date? The closing date is the day that this number is going to report to the credit bureaus, right? So once that closing date happens, that's kind of when they seal, they lock it, and they say, okay, consumer A or person A, let's say only paid $500 toward that credit card. That means that they still have a 50% credit utilization. Going off of that first example, right? They still have a 50% credit utilization. Their credit score is going to drop because they're pretty well above where the credit card companies and where the credit bureaus would normally report it, where the credit card companies would like to see it. Again, it feels like it's over leveraged. But if you are anything like me, I don't like carrying a balance over. So I like to find out when this due date is and when this closing date is, because once I find out when my due date is, I can send them a payment. And the way that you can structure this is a lot of people, they talk about this rule. I believe it's called the 15-2 rule, right? The 15 is every 15 days you make 2 payments. So one of the ways that you can structure it, and you can put it on auto draft, I recommend for you to put it on auto draft, is let's say that you only have, let's say, 2 credit cards to your name and they're both due on the same day. This is where this is going to come in handy. You are going to pick, let's say, if your due date is on the 30th, you are going to send a payment, and you already have that statement open. You're going to send a payment on half of what's due, not the minimum payment, because I would prefer for you not to carry a balance, because this way you're not getting charged interest on the back end, and this way you can take advantage of that grace period. If you're carrying a balance over, you're not able to fully take advantage of the grace period, which we won't talk about in this video, but just to kind of give you an understanding of how this would work. You would go ahead and make half the payment of the total balance due, let's say on the 10th. So whenever you receive that paycheck, you can just go ahead and have it auto drafted. You've now sent that one payment out. Then about 3 days before that statement is going to close and before that due date, or rather before the due date, you are going to send the other half. This way you're bringing it down to 0. So what ends up happening is that even though you have 2, 3, 4, 5, however many credit cards, every single month at closing date, it's reporting at a 0 over to the credit bureaus. And here's why this looks good. If you're maxing out these cards every single month, and if you're paying them off in full every single month. When you go after you've had these cards for 6 months, 8 months, even a year, and you've been in good standing for over a year, or even well over 6 months, you can even start this. If that credit card company hasn't already given you a credit limit increase, you can call them up, or you can even do it through their robo chat bots, and you can ask them for a credit limit increase. But you are more likely to get it when you are always using these credit cards and you are running them up to higher amounts. They may not always give it to you if, let's say, you have $10,000 with the credit limit and you're only using, let's say, $500 every month. If you're actually using $7, $8, $9, please be responsible with this, but if you're using $7, $8, $9,000 every month and you're paying off the balance in full every single month, when you go to ask for that $15,000, that $20,000, that $30,000 trade line increase, more often than not, they are going to give it to you. But remember, you want to find out when your due date is, when your open cycle is, and when your closing cycle is for your statements. That way you can take advantage and find out when is the best day for you to make these payments, and feel free to shuffle them around. So if you found value in this content, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Join the official community. Don't forget that anytime we're not posting on here, we're posting over on the Inside with Irv show, which is our podcast style channel. So if you like what we have going on over here, you'll love what we have going on over there. And if you guys are interested in getting your credit cleaned and possibly getting some negative items removed, you guys can find the letters as well down in the description. That takes you straight to the Irv official website. Once again, I appreciate you guys watching. Until next time, everyone, I will see you in the next video.